Awesome. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm Sherry Reichert-Ballou, and I'm author of Say It Now, 33 Creative Ways to Say I Love You to the most important people in your life. And I'm excited to have two fellow Mango authors here today on our panel, Kathleen and Jenny. You guys want to give a little wave? Nice to have you guys here. And welcome, Rachel and Linda. And I imagine we'll have some more people joining us live, and also we do make the replay available, so hopefully we can all share the replay. But thanks for being here. And we have all sorts of things going on right now. Of course, it's Gay Pride Month, and we also are, of course, still in the middle of a pandemic, which is why we started these panels, which was to offer support and some heart wisdom from the Mango authors. And so why don't we start? Kathleen, why don't we start with you and have you introduce yourself, hold up your book, and if you would share with us how you've been taking care of yourself during all of this.
So this is a recent book, We Make It Better, that profiles LGBTQ luminaries. And I wrote it with Eric Rosswood, who's a gay dad, and my guess is he's doing gay dad stuff today, so he couldn't be here. And before that, I wrote Pride and Joy, where I interviewed 30 artists, icons, and everyday heroes. And my premise in doing it was to share with everyone that LGBTQ folks are not just queer, but they have lives, they have children, they're married, and they are leading successful, fulfilling lives. So it inspired me to write the book and interview the luminaries I did, like Tony Kushner and Colum Toy-Bean and Emma Donahue and Bill T. Jones, and people from all over the world, really. And so that's what keeps me going. During the pandemic, I listened to Alicia Keys singing Good Job, you know, and her song New York. It's uplifting to me. So I think everyone can do that. I think that this is a time for reflection. It's a scary time. I'm fortunate in that I have a wife of 21 years and I have a beautiful dog. Let's see if I can show you. My dog is right there.
Oh,
A yellow lab. And we got her in the middle of the pandemic, actually, from Guide Dogs for the Blind. So those are the things that on a day-to-day keep me going.
I love it. I love it. So music, your wife of 21 years, did you say? Ah, that's awesome.
And you're gonna like each other too.
I was just going to ask you because it's a lot to be sheltered in place with someone as much as you love them. And I love that it sounds like you've been a real comfort for one another during this time.
Well, my wife is a gardener, a horticulturist. And so we have a beautiful organic year-round garden. She's also from New Zealand, which is one of the countries to admire really during this pandemic. Jacinda Ardern has just done a phenomenal job of caring for her people. And so it's good to have a different perspective.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. And tell us again, where are you in the world? Where do you live?
I currently live in Oakland, California, the best weather in the world, Mediterranean climate year-round. And I've been a queer activist since 1992. And I've also been a Silicon Valley executive. So I've had 9 lives.
Oh, well, good. Well, Kathleen, we'll look forward to hearing a little bit more about your books and some of the wisdom from your books. Let's have Jenny introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you've been taking care of yourself.
Sure, I'm Jenny Block. This is my latest book, is Be That Unicorn, which is a little bit of a diversion from my previous ones, which were about sex and relationships, although in some ways it's been interesting how it's my message is always the same, which is just, you're okay and you do you and we're here for you, whether we're talking about your relationship, your sex life, or just dealing with life in general. And I'm feeling a strange kismet with Kathleen. We too adopted a dog during the pandemic, this tiny little sleepy nugget, which strangely has kind of, I don't know, saved us in a way, because it gave me something to really focus on, somebody else to take care of, something like really concrete to manage, and someone like I felt like I saved her. And Kathleen, I think we need to do a story together, because my wife and I have been together for only 2 years. So I love the idea of like the pandemic with someone you've been with forever versus someone that you think, well, this will definitely decide whether or not this was a good idea. And I did fall into the bread baking chasm. I did bake bread before, but I'm definitely experimenting more now. I am finding myself doing some things that are out of my wheelhouse, or I would have said were out of my wheelhouse. The biggest one being, don't tell anyone, playing a video game. My daughter has a little game, handheld game called Nintendo Switch, and she is quarantining with her dad about 3.5 hours away. And I could tell that I was driving her crazy, because I would text, hey, what's going on? Hey, how are you? Hey, what you doing? And she was just like, I'm fine, Mom. I'm doing the same thing I was doing 3 hours ago. And so I woke up in the middle of the night and thought, oh my God, we could play those games together. And then at least I'd be calling her on purpose, like there'd be a real reason. So my wife got me one of these little handheld switches, and I got a couple games that I do not understand. Games don't come with directions anymore. I miss the old days. You like got the booklet and you read the booklet and it told you this is just like, you're just supposed to know. My daughter is very forgiving. She keeps saying, well, Mom, remember, I grew up with this like glued to my hand. So it's natural to me. And I say thank you, but I'm feeling a little old. But she finally found a game that I understand. And Kathleen, here's our crossover again. I spend my whole day gardening on my Switch. My wife wishes I would do it for real outside, but it's been the only thing that keeps me from thinking. If I love listening to music and watching movies, and I've been reading a lot, but my brain always does the, back to the reality. But something about this funny thing that's so out of context for me has really saved my brain. And my daughter talk all day long, FaceTiming, how do you do this? Or I just caught a great white shark and put it in my pocket. Or my wife keeps saying, you two sound like crazy people with our whole own language. But I think there's something really interesting about stepping out of my world is reading and writing. My world is words, and that's, and then doing these things either virtually or in person during, normal life. So to do something like that has really, I don't know, rewired me a little bit and allowed me to connect with her. Hallelujah. Because I saw her for the first time 2 weeks ago. For
wow.
3 months. And she and I mean, they call her my mini me. So it's been tough. But I've also been doing a lot of connecting with people, doing a lot of virtual appearances. Every time someone seems super sad on my Facebook feed, I sign my book and send it to them.
Oh.
Those groups, like the first 4 people who comment, I'll send you a surprise, and I send it out. Just like, I don't know, I've been writing notes to people, which I don't remember the last time I had to figure out where we kept the stamps. And I'm cooking. I learned how to make dumplings. They were really good too. Even I was surprised. So I'm doing my best. And then some days I curl up on the couch with Netflix and just hope sunset comes so I can go to bed and see if I feel better the next day, because it's hard.
Wow. Jenny, I'm so struck by that, that your love for your daughter would, get you to get that, whatever that thing, I don't even know what it's called, but I know what you mean. And it's so beautiful the way that it served you, right? That it served you to get out of. And I think that that's part of what's happening for so many of us, right? Is we're in smaller worlds for sure. And we don't have all the same opportunities to get outside of ourselves or to get outside of our normal lives. So I like that you've done that.
Well, and it's funny because this was probably the hardest thing about having this child. She doesn't like to read, which was basically like, why don't you just keep stabbing your mother over and over in the heart? So when she was younger, I would read whatever book she picked. We had a book club, and and talk about getting out of my wheelhouse. I mean, every Hunger Game and every Maze Runner and every teenage, like there's one about a young woman who loses her legs and she gets prosthetics and she wins the race, and that, like, just not my genre. And it was eye-opening and amazing, and helped me to see a whole new, like, genres and authors. Again, I wouldn't pick them up on my own volition, but really gave me a vocabulary, not just to talk to her, but to talk to her friends and to sort of be in another universe outside of my universe, which, anytime there's a crisis, having a little extra universe is helpful. So yeah, it was not what I expected, but it's certainly been interesting.
Well, and I love what you're just saying. Oh, by the way, hello, Marlena. We didn't have a chance to say hi to you. I'm glad you're here. I love what you're saying, because part of what's been so helpful for me by doing these panels every week, we get to hear from different authors and different kinds of books and, different lifestyles. And to me, that's been a way, I think, like kind of what you're talking about. I didn't realize that until just this moment, but it's like, it's been so helpful to get these peeks into other worlds, and it's the beauty to me of books in general, right? It's like, that's what I love about. Yeah.
And I have seen a lot of people online asking for book ideas, because they don't generally have time on their hands to read. And so that's been interesting too, because people have asked me, how do you find a book to read? And I think, how do I not find a book to read? Like, what are you saying? Like, I don't even, the problem is picking which one to start with first. So the idea that you would, like, oh, how do you find a book? Like, I don't know. How does that process work? And sort of working backwards from, well, what are you interested in? Or what are you willing to try? Or what are you hoping the book will do? In that group that Rachel and I belong to, I'm reading, I read a really scary book called Follow Me by Kathleen Archambeau, which I never would have read because it's too scary, and I'm not 100% sure I'm necessarily the audience, but it was so suspenseful and so great, and I kept putting it away so I wouldn't read it all at once because I'm a binger, and I didn't want it to be over yet. So yeah, I think anything that sort of gets you out of the regular is helpful right now, because you can't do the regular, and the regular doesn't feel as satisfying because you can't do the regular the way you usually do all of that stuff. So yeah, anything that gets you out of that and into something else, or to slip into someone else's universe for a minute just to try it on. Most of us don't have time to try things. And I'm not saying there's any good side to the pandemic or any of this, but as we are stuck here, that does seem like something, the time, or for somebody, I don't know if it's time, it's the need to find something else just to sort of get through it.
Yeah, thank you for all of that. I love that. That sort of set a really great stage, and it also leads us right into where I wanted to go next, which is great, let's go back to Kathleen, and let's talk a little bit about your book or books. And, I kind of always just put it out there in general, whatever's top of mind for you, that is kind of wisdom from your books, or what you want to share about where we are at this moment in time.
Right. One of the things that's really interesting that's happening right now with some of the people in my books is a conference that's free, and it's online. It's called Lesbians Who Tech. And the speakers are Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris, the CEO of Patagonia, Rose Macario, the CEO of Land of Lakes, Beth Ford. So Beth Ford said something really important about what we need to be in our world, and that is authentic. And so I had my heart wisdom to share from all the people I've interviewed is 3 A's: to be authentic, adaptable, and astonishing. And authentic, Tony Kushner, for example, said the only thing an artist has to do is try to tell the truth. And adaptable you know, right now I'm a social person. And so now my whole social life just about is online. So it still means I'm physically distancing, but I'm not socially distancing. And so what I've done is FaceTime, Zoom, uh, virtual calls, WhatsApp with our people from overseas, and workshops, dance classes. I found this very sort of hip body groove class out of LA. It's kind of like exercise light and spiritual wisdom light, but it's fun. And I'm doing that. And then as far as astonishing, I talk about believing in yourself and your dreams. And I love the Colin Kaepernick Nike commercial where he ends his commercial by saying, don't ask yourself if your dreams are crazy. Ask yourself if your dreams are crazy enough. And all the people in my book were crazy enough, you know, like Daniela Vega, who's the Chilean artist, who's a transgender actress, who says, soy muy auténtica, which means I'm the real deal. And her movie, Una Mujer Fantástica, won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film.
Wow.
Bill T. Jones, who was the son of a sharecropper, says, we get up and we do it over again better. And he is still dancing and creating Tony Award-winning choreography on Broadway. Tim Cook, I love this from Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. The sidelines are not where you want to live in life. The world needs you in the arena. So to that end, what am I doing personally in this confluence of pandemic and Black Lives Matter? I'm tutoring 3 kids who are the children of 2 doctors who are on the front lines. And I'm doing it as a service and tutoring them in creative writing. And then I'm mentoring and coaching and helping reposition African-American men and women who have lost their jobs, like the 40 million Americans who have lost their jobs during this pandemic. So I think action is really important, not just your art, but action. And this is a time to act, and in whatever way you can. And those are the ways that work for me.
Oh, Kathleen, I want to ask you to say just a little more, if you would, because it's so beautiful hearing about, like what you just said, you know, art plus action and the things that you started doing, you know, in action. How did you know? How did you choose? How did you gravitate toward? Because I know that there's a lot of people right now who want to participate and who want to serve, but not sure how. How did you figure that out for yourself?
Well, I've always been a lifelong volunteerer, right? And I always believe that when you volunteer, you should volunteer doing things you love, doing things you're good at, not doing miserable things like stuffing envelopes that you hate or calling people that you hate. And I love to write. So, you know, people do kind of gravitate toward me, actually. I haven't really had to seek out these folks. They've asked me for the help, and I've offered it because it's something I enjoy doing, and it's something that really helps them.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, it's great, right? That people have come to you that, you know, I presume maybe because of all of the work that you've done in the world that people know you and they, you know, they know they can come to you for service. But what I heard in that is that, yeah, for people to just kind of take a little bit of time and think about what we love to do and how could we use that, you know, right now in the areas that most need us. That's lovely. And thank you for sharing those snippets too from, you know, from your book. That was really great to hear. I love that. How about you, Jenny? What did you bring, or what are you thinking about top of mind right now?
Well, first I have to say it was interesting hearing Kathleen share those tidbits, because when my book first came out, my dad said, there's nothing new here, but it certainly is the perfect sparkly package for right now. And I thought, I loved that, because he's right. Like, there's nothing new about saying you should live your authentic life. Or my dad always says, you know, go up to bat, because there's no way you're going to hit the ball if you don't at least step up to the plate. It's all the same wisdom. And I love how there are these people who are able to put them in these pithy ways that Kathleen's talking about, and have these platforms to be able to say them in that way to the people who need to hear them. I don't know, I love that. I always say you have to find your herd, and then you will be heard. And I feel like that each of those people, I mean, for some of them, we're all their herd. But to have those platforms and to use them in those ways, I just think is so interesting. It does call to mind sort of a less happy topic, which is the racism that is, I'm going to say, being exposed, because I'm not going to suggest, I don't believe in any way that any of it's new, just that people are feeling really emboldened right now. And a little bit of the struggle that I think most all of us are going through into who to be right now, about how to be an ally, but not to fall into the white savior category if you're a Caucasian person. Even that, like, I find myself struggling, like, which I want to be appropriate, which word is appropriate. But part of that, I think, is the good part, like the fact that we're questioning that. I have realtor friends, I think it's been officially adopted by HAR in Texas, that it's no longer the master bedroom, it's the primary bedroom. So and for Texas, whoo, look at us, starting to make those changes, starting to ask the questions. I don't believe in arguing on social media. I don't think it's effective generally. Usually you're either preaching to the choir or yelling at someone who can't hear you anyway. And I do feel like at times, you know, you do have an ear, and sometimes people who wouldn't otherwise get to hear certain things because you're a friend of a friend, or somehow they're seeing your post, it's an opportunity to say something. And I got in a bit of a tussle over being a racist apologist, because I was feeling very frustrated that people were saying, oh, well, people just believe different things. Well, for me, you can choose whether or not you believe in the Easter Bunny, totally your call. In fact, if you want to believe in God or another, totally your call. But I don't think anyone gets to decide whether or not someone's a human because they have more melanin in their skin. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to participate in that, and I'm not going to accept that as oh, well, you know, some folks are just racist, because I worry that's how we got here. And it was interesting because as the conversation went like this, soon it went like this, where you could see people were like, oh, that's what she's saying. Wow, I didn't realize by saying that I was also saying that. So it was an interesting lesson to me in how this is a time we can share some of the harder things that are hard to say. I mean, this is not fun stuff to talk about, but if we're not talking about it, that to me is way, way worse. I've also used it as an opportunity to reach out to people privately. I appreciate that people are putting on Facebook, like, I stand with you and Black Lives Matter. Awesome. I love all of that. But I also use it as a chance to, like, privately text people and say, I haven't seen you in however, as a travel writer, I've traveled with a zillion different people all around the world who I was best friends with for the week, and, you know, you don't necessarily see them again. But just to reach out and say, I know I can't really understand, but I stand with you, and I'm here, and I see you, and I'm, you know, I'm horrified by everything's going on, but I need you to know that I'm here. Because we also had a friend of my wife who committed suicide Saturday. And all I can think is how many people are just feeling so beaten down and alone. So I hope that this will be a time that we'll remind ourselves to use the language we have and use the platforms we have and talk to the people we love and talk to the people that we don't always talk to, but we probably still think about and need to make, you know, I don't know what's going on in a lot of their worlds, but I can't imagine what, you know, I have a Black friend with a white husband who has a a child who reads as Black, a little boy. And the first thing when all this happened was I was thinking, how are you a mother to a young Black boy right now? Yeah. I don't know how to be a mother to a young white girl, you know, a college kid, let alone, yeah. So all I did was say hi, really, just I'm here. I think we need to say I'm here. I guess that's what I'm saying. Wow. So I've really tried to use this opportunity to remember to say that to people who need to hear it right now, which means everybody, because I don't know who needs to hear it. So.
Oh, Jenny. Oh, so beautiful. I mean, I love the way that you're taking it both from, you know, reaching out in a bigger way, you know, to your platform, speaking in that way about what is true for you and how you feel and, you know, bringing up things, but also in that one-on-one way. And it's so beautiful the way you said that, like, you know, I'm here, I stand with you. You know, I may not understand everything you're going through, but I'm right here. And it's so beautiful. And
what's that? Oh, I was just gonna say, what's that musical? I think it's Avenue Q, and they do you know that musical? It's all the puppets. And you should watch. It's really political. You'd be really interested in it. Actually, it's a really funny, biting musical. And one of the songs is called "Everyone's a Little Bit Racist," and it's funny, but it's really telling because, you know, I when I was a college professor, I used to start at the beginning of the semester by saying, "We're all working on our racism, and that's the only thing I'm going to ask of you. Don't tell me you don't see color. Don't tell me you're not racist. I don't want to hear any of that because we're all just doing our best and we all have our prejudices and all we can say is, I don't like that about myself and I'm going to do my best." And then when I saw that musical, I thought, whew, that is true for other people too. So anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No. I do have a question for you, but first I wanted to say hi to Brenda. Thanks.
Hello. Hi.
Good to see you. So Jenny, what I wanted to ask you is that I'm certain that there's something in your book, Be That Unicorn, that might help give people that extra boost of courage or, you know, I know that for, you know, it sounds like for you that speaking out is just kind of like who you are and how you do, right? You speak the truth is what I'm projecting. But what about for people who may feel like I want to be more authentic that way. I want to speak more what's from my heart. But I'm a little scared. You know, do you have any tips?
Well, I think in some ways my whole book is really about that. And probably the biggest tip is really sort of, I always say that Lady Gaga and I were the same person until I let the world affect me and she said, screw that, and kept going. And I think we could all be a little more Lady Gaga. She had a hate group in her college just formed just strictly to hate her. And I believe that was because she was herself. And there's nothing more threatening to people who aren't themselves than people who are super duper themselves. And I tell a story in the book about going to summer camp. I think it was the year between 12 and 13. And every year at summer camp, you know, summer camp's great because it's always the same, right? You bring your camp trunk and the same outfits and the same kids there. And you know, it's camp and there's no outside world. Well, that summer, I came back as my regular self and I got there and everyone else was a teenager. And they had like pictures of John Bon Jovi in their camp locker and then these little tiny underwears that said Bloomies on the back. And they had like sexy t-shirts with like band names. And I had my monkey stuffed animal that I put around my neck and my waist and said, "Hi, I'm Jenny, and this is Charlie, and we're so excited to be at camp." I mean, it was like social suicide in 1 second. And that summer I learned that it was really important not to be me, because me was stupid and not cool and would never have any friends if I kept that up. And I needed to get someone else to take me shopping because clearly my mother had no clue what was going on. Like, I learned I was wrong in everything. And so then I flipped it out, you know, I tried to do all the things and that didn't work because those people who it didn't work because it had nothing to do with me. I couldn't do it right because I couldn't, because that's not who I was. And so then when I went back to being me, when I went to college, it all worked again. And I thought, what a waste of 4 years, you know, like if I could go back in a time machine, I would say, don't do that, Jenny Block. And I know where some of our experiences, and that's what adolescent girls do. And yada, yada, yada. But I think the biggest thing the book says to people, and that I would say to people, is not my advice, it's my dad's. Life is an amusement park, and you get one ticket for one chance. And you can go on the rides or not. You can do the guess your height game or not. You can go through the haunted house or not. And then after it's done, you don't get another shot. And I feel like we're learning that more now than ever. Like, am I ever going to see a Broadway show again? I don't know. Am I ever going to go to La Sagrada Familia again? I don't know. Am I ever going to like walk through the palm trees and hold? I don't know. But I'm sure as heck glad I did it before. And when I get the chance, because when I do get the chance to do those things again, I'm going to do them extra hard. Because it just, yeah, it's a one shot. And I used to be a bench girl. I was I'll hold the coats, you guys have a good time, I'll be right here girl. And then I stopped being that girl. And I'm extra super grateful that I stopped now.
Oh, Jenny.
I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah, the book talks about, it's like Nike, you got to just do it. You got to say, there is someone who's just like me, and there is someone who wants to hear my voice, and I am okay, and it is all good. And my rule of thumb is to tell your inner critic to shut up. Shut up. I do know how to write. I do know how to be a nice person. I do know how to live in the world. I am going to make a mistake, and I am going to fall. All that's fine. Just tell her to shut up, because she's boring and ruins everything,
Thank you, Jenny. I love it. And I love your brand of all out enthusiasm for being who you are. So yeah, so definitely read your book. And Kathleen, I'm going to ask you the same question, because I bet you have some things to say also about speaking up and saying what we feel needs to be said. Oops, you're muted though. We want to hear you when you're speaking up.
I guess I better speak up. In any event, I was not always openly gay. I spent much of my corporate career in the closet. So at the time, there were no protections for women, and there were no protections for queer women in corporate America, and particularly in Silicon Valley. If you think it's a bro culture now, it was all bro then. And so I'm really excited that the Supreme Court has just made discrimination against LGBTQ workers illegal, finally. But when I was in corporate America, it was not illegal. And in fact, it was dangerous to be out. I had an engineer in one of my classes give a persuasive speech about 5 reasons you could kill someone and it would be okay. And one of them was for being gay. And I was in the closet in that class as the professor for the class. So it literally was life and death and dangerous. You would not have been promoted. You would not have held positions of authority at that time unless you were uber technical, which I wasn't. If you were uber technical, you could kind of get away with it, be over there in the closet in a partition and not bother anybody as an openly queer person. But it was very much a male-dominated patriarchy and very difficult. So I know what it's like not to speak up, and I know what it's like to speak up. And I had an experience where I was fired from a position, and I was an outstanding employee, and my manager didn't want to fire me, but he was being pressured by a Southern, excuse the expression, cracker who fired me and a Jewish guy. And it was pure and simple prejudice. And I knew, because he was having an affair with a former friend of mine who spread it to everyone in the company, that I was a lesbian. So I went to a lawyer. I was going to sue the company. And the lawyer said, but were you out? And I said, no, I'm not out. And he said, well, I'm sorry, then you don't have a leg to stand on. So this was in the 80s, the late 80s. So I left that company, and when I went to my next company, and from then on, I thought, no way, I am going to be completely out and proud and speak authentically. And I'm really glad that I did. And I'm really glad that what I did and what people have done since the climate has changed, that now we can have Tim Cook as an openly gay CEO of one of the wealthiest companies in the world. So that's my journey. So it didn't happen instantly.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Kathleen. I think this is part of, you know, whether we're talking about Black Lives Matter or gay pride or whatever, it doesn't even matter what we're talking about, but people's personal stories, for me, they just open my heart. You know, it's like when we hear someone's story, that one, your story, like that, it's just heartbreaking to hear, you know, that you would get fired from your job that way and not have any repercussions. And so thanks. Thank you for that. I'd love to open it up to anyone who's here to, you know, anything that you've heard or we've been talking about or conversation you want to introduce.
Well, I had raised my hand, but I guess it didn't show up. And all I wanted to say was that I wanted to make sure that Jenny and everyone else knew that Lady Gaga wrote a book on kindness, and it's coming out this September, and it's called Channel Kindness, Stories of Kindness and Community. And she's really putting it out there in her Gaga way that, I just love that.
That's amazing. I had the weirdest brush. I was in Provincetown last summer, and I was having my 6th lobster roll in 3 days. That was my whole goal for the weekend. And I started a conversation with these 2 cute gay men sitting next to me, and one of them was the man who designed her meat dress. And so we've kept in touch, and he actually tried to get the book to her. I'm going to ping him now that you told me that and say we have a little, even more of a connection now. But apparently she called him when she was, like, I suppose I can say this, while she was high, and said, I think I want to have a purse made of meat for an event. And he said, purse? You don't want a purse. Let's make a dress. And that's how that happened.
Wow.
So people often, I'll have to show you my prom picture offline one day. People say I look like her, which is very nice of them to say, but especially in my prom picture.
There's a vibe. There is a vibe, like a glam. It's like a beauty and a glamour, but there's some special intensity about it, like your energy field, you know?
Weird. Just between the 8 of us, I had a nose job when I was in college. I looked more like her with my strong Jewish nose, because she has a very strong Italian look to her. And Jewish girls and Italian girls, I think we often bear a resemblance. But anyway, yeah, so I've always felt a little akin, because I just admired how she, I don't know, she talked about how she used to wear costumes and stand out in the corner and sing and dance, which I used to do too. Boy, my mother, she might have been strict, but other things, she let me do the craziest things, which I think is also how I ended up the unicorn that I am now. But anyway, I will look that book up for sure. I think she's an excellent model of, you know, living out loud, even, you know, even when you have to admit some things about yourself that aren't so easy, because, you know, she's famous, but life has not been easy or completely kind to her either. Same for Taylor Swift. I don't know if you've seen her new documentary. Like, she was treated like a product and not very nicely, and that continues to be an issue. And she finally said, I don't want to be that anymore. And I admire that. Rich and famous doesn't protect you as a woman, as a gay person, as anything. Nothing protects you from any of that stuff. So I admire the people who lead with kindness and abundance regardless.
Marlena, hello. You two are muted. Yeah, there you go.
I just unmuted myself. So Kathleen, to say that I really appreciated your comment about how do we choose what to do when we want to serve or we want to be there for someone. And it seems to me that there are so many needs out there that the only reasonable way to sort is that which touches me, that which it comes from my heart. And so I really love that you brought that. And I love the astonishing, are my dreams crazy enough? The other A's are great. And I write a lot about authenticity and I write a lot about adaptability, but I think I want to write more about astonishing. So thank you.
That's great. And Kathleen, I hope this is okay to say, but I also want to say thank you, because being out and the work you did, and that paved the way for all of us, that now I can live. I'm very aware of the fact that my life is how it is because, you know, women before me said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to stand for it anymore. So thank you. I cannot imagine how hard that must have been.
Well, thank you. You know, every generation hopefully is going to make it better for the next generation.
I hope so. I sure hope so.
Yeah, I love this too, that I feel as if this is a real opportunity. Again, it's like that open-hearted feeling of this gratitude. And again, no matter what people are speaking up, you know what, there's so many injustices and so many things, but that, you know, that we're sort of focused today on that idea of speaking up and using our voices, especially, you know, again, like we've talked about this before with Mango, like I so appreciate that Mango and Brenda, I know you were a huge part of this, you know, really taking a stand, you know, with the Black Lives Matter and, you know, putting up the big banner and really taking a stand, which, you know, has been, I think, just such an inspiration.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it can be too easy to not do that. It's safer to not do that. They say we all have our lizard brain, which is just our survival, like stay low and don't climb up too high where you can be seen and don't make too many noises. And as long as you're fed and all of that stuff, you're okay. Sorry, that's coming through my computer. And so the fact that, you know, when people do stand up, it's scary, but we have to do that. We have to do that now. Otherwise, I don't even want to think about otherwise. I was reading the other day something that said, if you're not sure what privilege is, it's that you didn't have to be granted the right to live in love by the Supreme Court. Wow. And I think about that sometimes, like, wow, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I just got married 2 years ago, and we were able to just be like, hey, let's get married. And we went to the little tiny courthouse in our little tiny town, and they were confused about where to put two women's names, but they figured it out, and everyone said congratulations. But, you know, it was like 5 minutes ago where we weren't able to do that, you know? And my wife is in corporate America. She's a little bit older than I am, but she won one of those corporate trips a million years ago, and you were not allowed to bring a friend. You could only bring a significant other. And so she had to go to the CEO and be like, you know, I'm gay and I have a partner and I'd like to bring her. And instead of getting fired or having it be a problem, she like changed all their corporate culture because of that. They were all like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Like I didn't even know we were so behind. And if I remember the story correctly, when she went to the event and they did all the awards, the CEO said, we used to thank all the wives for supporting their husbands. And then we thanked the husbands and wives for supporting their spouses. Well, now we just want to thank all the partners of all who make all the things possible. And I thought, wow, I mean, that's like, you're talking about a giant change, but also a teeny one. Like, it's so easy to include people. It's so easy to, you know, to lead with kindness and abundance. It's so easy. Like that, part of that's what makes it awesome and irritating, because it's like, you know, you could just be nice instead. You know, you could just include you know. And I think that's, but yeah, it's hard to say words. It's hard to speak your mind, because who knows the reaction you'll get. But we wouldn't get to be where we are now. We wouldn't have had Obama in office we wouldn't have had a lot of things if someone didn't just say, hey, wait a minute, you know?
Well, and also if people hadn't written things, like I'm just reading White Fragility right now, and I'm just thinking, wow, you know, the work that went into that book, but that, you know, to your point that it's like sometimes people really are just ignorant. Like there's so many ways I see my ignorance, and to have somebody so beautifully and gently educate, you know, like I love the response of your wife's former boss, you know, or, you know, just like, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. I needed that, you know.
Right.
Books do that, right?
Exactly. I was on a panel keynoting at a conference many, many years ago, and I was with a colleague that I knew, and then some new then colleagues. And I was talking about how this one colleague and I had lectured together at Georgetown and how we were the perfect like yin and yang to each other. We just had some interesting opposites. Tristan Tormino, Brenda, who you know.
Yeah, I know her. Yeah.
So she just has this, she lives, you know, she led this sort of wild, live out loud life. And we were both writing about open relationships. And I was the little PTA mom version of open relationships. And so we were just this great combo together. And Tristan said out loud on the panel, yeah, if only we had an African-American woman with us, we'd have it all. And I said, that's exactly what we need, a Black sidekick. Right. And Tristan said, you know what? I know what you mean, but we don't need a sidekick. We need another partner in crime. And I said, you are absolutely right. That was a terrible word choice. What a lazy choice of word. I'd like to reel that word back and say, yeah, we need a trio in our crime fighters. And the most fascinating thing happened. Everyone in the audience started tweeting, the most beautiful thing just happened at this conference. Oh. Tristan Tormino so graciously and gently corrected Jenny Block, and Jenny Block so graciously accepted exactly what Tristan was saying and revised it. If we all did that, and I've just lived at that moment. I want to always remember to be that unicorn, like to be the girl who says, holy smokes, yeah, that wasn't what I wanted to say. You don't have to get, she could have been mean to me. The genius Black scholar next to me could have told me what a moron I was. Like, that could have been handled. The conference could have kicked me out. I mean, they could have said, we don't accept that racist language here. And instead everyone thought, what did Jenny Block really mean? Certainly she didn't mean that. You know, I want to live in that world. I want to live there.
I'm going to live there with you.
Okay,
I love that too. I love that too. That's beautiful. Rachel, are you about to say something? You look like you have something to say.
I was finding my mute button. You know me so well now. I honestly, I love all this. And that story reminded me of, you know, I went to college at 35, and I went to a program for experienced learners in St. Petersburg, Florida. So it was a very diverse classrooms, and I studied human development and cultural anthropology. So talk about, you are submerged into all of it, into the stories, into learning. And we learned so, because it was a program where people were 25 to 95 years old, you got experience. You got the experience of people learning together. And so those calls out of ignorance were, I didn't know how many I had, because I was always raised to be very open and trusting of people. And until they broke your trust, that's when that's when you shut doors. So I didn't understand a lot of like my own ignorance to things. And I had such a beautiful community of people who did it like, you were talking about, Jenny, where it was just so lightly brought to my awareness so that I could see it clearly. And, and that's what I've like really tried to do in this time with people, is like focus on the connection and the unity of people instead of how many ways we can divide more, like how many other things we can be against, because you know, that was one of like the things that I saw in the classroom is you could tell when people didn't want their ignorance called out. You know, there was a difference. And my friends that I had there are still my friends because I am always willing. They could tell me on Facebook something like, you might not want to say that word, you know, you might not want to say this. And it just is so helpful because it's like to know that people are doing it from a loving place. They're doing it because they want you to like see the world better. It's just, to me, that's such a beautiful thing. And I feel like right now we're in such a call to awareness, you know. The first part of my book is called Blinders Off, because I feel like it's always an important step is to like expose where you're blinded, you know, expose where all your blinders are. And that's kind of what I've seen with this pandemic, with the protests, with all of this, is like seeing where blinders are and calling those out and getting better from them. So yeah, I just loved I love that gentle call out to like open ourselves up to learn from our ignorance. It's just such a beautiful thing.
I have this ongoing fantasy that everyone thinks couldn't be any more of a fantasy, but Trump and I are stuck in an elevator that has plenty of air conditioning, but it won't go up or down. And I say to him that I'm really sad and that I feel bad that he allied himself with the wrong people, that he thought these people would somehow make him important and somehow help him to make change in the world and help him to, you know, secure a legacy that he and his kids could be proud of. And that I wanted to offer him complete amnesty, that we could just fire everybody and we would call Obama and we'd call Hillary and we'd call Kamala and we just get the whole gang together and we just put Obama's policies back in place and find out what people needed and get rid of those cages at the border and just do a do-over, because you just got in so deep, and the deeper you get, I get it, there's loss aversion, you invested so hard in these bad guys, and now you don't have any money or any friends or any people, no one's going to reelect you. And that, I saw him walking after his event the other day, so dejected, and I just wanted to say, you know, you really screwed up. You did some really horrible things, and let's reel it back in. Like, I know it's ridiculous. No, I don't think it's ridiculous. I don't. I'm gonna get my chance. I'm gonna have my hearing, and if I have to wear a low-cut shirt to get his attention to start, I will. I'm not afraid to use my powers. No, I just think. I feel like this is what happens when you're an insecure person and you surround yourself with more insecure people, and it get distracted, money and power and blah, blah, blah. And then it's too much and it's too far. And then things get worse and worse. And then, yeah, if someone had been gentle with him from the beginning, correcting him, probably starting with his parents, maybe it'd be different. I don't know. But I'm going to hold on to that fantasy. You never know. Stranger things have happened.
And you know what? If anyone can manifest that, you can.
No, we almost crossed paths at the airport the other day, and I thought, ooh, I'm getting closer.
Who did you run into at the airport?
I said I almost ran into him. He landed and left as I landed and was heading in. And they had a regular airport and everything, which I didn't know they did that. I'm sure he was shuffled way out the back. I never would have bumped into him. But in my fantasy, we walked in and out of the club at the same time. You never know. No, but I do think about that sometimes, about the difference between a kind word and an unkind word, the difference between gently correcting or helping someone. My wife is the queen of mixed metaphors. Some of them are brilliant. Like, she used to say hate mongrels instead of hate mongers. And I love that, because I do think of them as like mongrels. But when we talk about what the word actually is, she says I'm the best corrector ever, that I never make anyone feel stupid. And I always think, that's because that's how people talk to me. My dad would say, that's so funny. What a clever mix of metaphors, Jenny. The original metaphor is actually this, but how interesting your brain would do that. So easy to be nice.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We need to invite my dad next time. I don't know where he was today. You'll like him.
I love your dad already from the few things you've said.
You'd love him.
I love him.
Well, I have one thing I could share.
Yeah, who's
I know none of you know me, so this may sound really odd to you, but the way I found to find even just a little grain of gratitude for our current president was, and I was writing about this not long after the election, that he's kind of like the pus that shows us we have an infection. That didn't have that, then we wouldn't know we had an infection. And if we didn't know we had an infection, we could die because it would go septic. So that was how I found my way. It's a very odd way, but that's how I found my way to having a little bit of gratitude for him.
I might need to be able to I might need to reach out to you because I want to quote you properly when I use that in a piece of writing.
Well, and Rachel, I wanted to go back to one thing you said about our blinders. And that what I've been trying to do in terms of racism right now is to find ways to find those stories like you were talking about, Sherry. I want to make a stand publicly, but I also think it's so important to have those conversations person to person, to know each other's stories, and that's how we find our prejudices. If I'm only with people who agree with me, then I don't see my blinders, and they help me see my blinders by having those conversations and hearing those stories. And hopefully they're kind about when I screw up, because I'm bound to screw up. So yeah, there's just so many things that I want to take a stand on, but I think the biggest way I can take a stand is by just getting to know people one-on-one. Heart wisdom, it's just heart conversations is for me how I'm gonna make progress in my community. So those are my thoughts.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you. I'm so glad that you joined in and said that was really powerful. You know, that was great.
Hope it didn't gross anybody out.
So Brenda invented something. I wish we had a name for it besides Brenda's closing. Shall we, Brenda? Are we have to?
No, I think we should do it because it just adds like icing to a meaningful cake.
I love it. So Brenda has come up with a beautiful way to ice our cake. And I don't know, maybe a month ago, she started, when we close out, to just go around and have each person share an intention. And I think it is such a beautiful, am I missing anything in that, sharing an intention?
No, that's pretty much it. And then just anything else they're called to say.
Love it. Mm-hmm. And then you just pass the mic, as it were, to someone else in the group. And that way we can get a chance to hear from everyone and have a chance to leave on an even more beautiful note than this has been. Mm-hmm. So Brenda, how about if we start with you?
Certainly. Well, I intend that the good changes that are happening keep rolling and gain steam and gain momentum. I definitely want Jenny Block to run into you-know-who and make a real connection and like, I don't know, I'm trying to, I have a picture in my head, so let me try to express the picture in my head. The picture in my head is that Jenny Block has so much good energy inside her and love and kindness and hope and like equality and pro-diversity in her, that it splashes out from her and splashes all over him and it soaks in and he changes and awakens. That's my intention. And I am so grateful that we do this every week because like it's like a little church or something for me, or maybe it's therapy, I don't know, or maybe it's all of the above. Anyway, I just am so filled with pride at our authors, our brave and bold authors, all of them, and this week's Jenny and Kathleen, and just keep on doing what you're doing, and we're all in it together. And I will pass to actually Linda.
Okay, thank you. I'll just share two things real quick. I was thinking about, Sherry, when you were talking about the book you were reading and the things we're all reading right now. I had been thinking about this the other day, that sometimes authors or poets are like stars, that, you know, how the light from a star can travel and reach you, but that star's already gone, but the light still can reach you. So a lot of the books that we're turning to now weren't necessarily written right now for this time, but their light is reaching us when we needed it, right? So authors, keep that in mind. And it's funny that you talked about intention, because I was writing about intention today. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and I had started something on Monday, and the process of writing for me is this alchemy that takes me from somewhere to somewhere else I didn't expect, and it transforms something for me. And I was working with the idea of the tension between where I am now and where I want to be. And by the end of the writing, I came to this realization, I'm just gonna read it so I won't forget, I'll get it right. The force that creates the tension that stretches me into my best self is intention. So putting together the word tension and intention all of a sudden created this light bulb moment for me. So that intention is what creates that stretching of me into who I want to be. So that's my intention. Myself to be stretched into my best self.
Thank you. Linda, you get to pass the mic.
Oh, that's right. And one more thing, I won't be able to participate next week. I forgot. I'm going to be on vacation, but I'm so enjoying these. So thank you. I'm going to pass to Kathleen.
There, thank you for the baton. And thank you for the idea of intention. I really like that. I listened to Beth Ford yesterday. She's the CEO of Land of Lakes. And she's the perfect example of don't ask if your dreams are crazy, ask if they're crazy enough. She was the youngest of 8 children in Iowa. She came from a working class poor family. She started out detasseling corn when she was 11 or 12. And now she's the first openly lesbian CEO of the largest farm cooperative company in the Fortune 500, Land O'Lakes. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy, ask if they're crazy enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I pass to Rachel.
Thank you. Oh, I love that. I just love what I get, like Brenda, I love what I get out of these Wednesdays. It's just such a beautiful thing. Today, the intention that I've been holding is this call to awareness that it just keeps opening us up more and more to heal and to grow and to strengthen and to start seeing the dangers in all these divides that we have created, and to really let that call to awareness help break these divides down so that we can be united in our humanity, in our love for, we all express the same love, the same fear, the same hurt, the same passion. It's like it's all in there. We all have these stories, and that these calls to awareness will help us like really bring out so much of that understanding and seeing the humans behind categories. So that's my big intention. I'm dreaming big. I am going big. I'm going for it. And I'm going to do everything I can to, help be part of that change to help people. That's my intention. So thank you. I will pass to Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I love that. My intention is to keep saying the hard things. I feel like in some ways I've been lucky, like the paths I've chosen or the path that I found myself on allow me to say the fun, happy things, talk to women about how to have great sex, talk to couples about how to have great relationships, talk to people about how to be sparkly unicorns. But I recently was asked to talk about how to be anti-racist, and I thought, are you sure you want me? Like, I'm the sparkle girl. And then I thought, I need to remember that I'm allowed to say the hard things, and that sometimes I can be good. I can be good for people. I can say the hard things that maybe they can't hear from someone else or aren't listening to anyone else who says the hard things. and that it's okay if people are mad at me about it. It's okay to get a backlash that sometimes that means people heard it. Sometimes it just means I'm wrong. Sometimes it doesn't mean anything at all. That's just what happened in that moment. But I intend to say the hard things when I think them, like I don't think, you know, you get to choose to be a racist. I'm standing by that. And people are mad about it, and I've decided I don't care if they're mad about it. Yeah, because nice is awesome until other people get hurt from it. Then it's not awesome anymore. Then you niced over something, and that not nicing over things anymore. Not when people's lives are at stake. So, yeah, there's something about nicing and icing. I'm going to work on that because I like that. Yeah, I saw your brain do that too, Sherry. So. Okay, I'm passing it to you, Debbie.
Okay, thank you. So I was inspired by what Rachel said about dreaming big, and I've realized that lately I've put some of my non-career dreams on hold a little bit. And when Kathleen was sharing, I thought, well, maybe they haven't manifested because they're not crazy enough. Maybe I need to upgrade them and make them bigger and better. So my intention is to come up with new dreams and to continue to be myself, which at times I can hold back. So that's also my intention. Thank you. And I pass to Sherry.
I'm going to just read before I go with my intention what Linda wrote, because it's so beautiful, Linda, in case anyone didn't see it. Rumi said, the wounds are where the light enters us. So maybe the divides are where the light is entering. That's beautiful. Thank you, Linda, for bringing that. Yeah. And my intention is that I sit here and just am astonished. I love that word, Kathleen. I'm astonished and astounded and so grateful for the voices that are here and the wisdom, you know. I mean, we call it that. We call it heart wisdom, but it's so true. It comes to life every Wednesday. And of course, it's happening all the time, not just on Wednesdays. But I guess my intention is that I just would love for life as much as possible to help me elevate all of these conversations, these voices that I respect and admire so much, and that I'm able to amplify all of this kind of beautiful love and wisdom and the generosity. And I'm so struck by the beauty of how we can gently point out to each other where those blinders are. I just found that to be such a touching part of this, like how wonderful to live in that world, right? So thank you. Marlena, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So thank you, Kathleen and Jenny. First of all, I love the empty picture frame that is behind you, Linda. Could you pop yourself up in the middle of the screen by saying a word and show us that empty picture frame? Or is she gone? So my intention is to treat every day like it's an empty picture frame that I can fill up with crazy, crazy dreams and action.
Love that. Oh, I love that. We've had so many beautiful themes today and just so much. I'm so grateful. Thank you to Jenny. And where'd Kathleen go? She's gone. Oh, there you are. You changed your spot for me. Kathleen and Jenny, thank you for being here as our featured authors. And thank you to Debbie and Brenda for being here on behalf of Mango. Thank you to Linda and Marlena and Rachel for joining us. I am so grateful to all of you for what you've brought here. And let's just take it out in the world. Let's go amplify it all. Thank you so much.
I feel like we need to all put our hands in like we did at King Up, you know? On
Yeah.
3, right? 1, 2, 3, change the world.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.